Hello, you guys. Good evening. I am back, and we just have 45 minutes left to finish this book, you guys. We are on chapter 15. It is 17 chapters. So we have 45 minutes left to finish this book. Let me see what you said. Just you said black people will free anybody. Somebody grandmama house got shot up and they want that person. Exactly. Until somebody shoot up their shit. Then they want them locked up or dead. Straight up. Straight up. So that's why I don't pay attention to none of that bullshit. Either way you shake it with this man, he either impeded the progress of a potential investigation by admitting to a crime that he claimed he did commit, or he did commit the crime and then trying to implicate other people in the crime that he committed just because he finessing. Just because he's finessing. And you want to know what? Just like a real true finesse is, always some black people to fall for the okie doke, okay? So last night we learned in our reading that Keffe D absolutely did write this fucking book. When we go to listen to the Vlad interview, we are going to hear things in this book that Keffe D says verbatim. He is not the type of man who runs off of a script. These are thoughts in his brain. These are memories that he created, or either lies that he's remembered, that he's committed to his memory, that he told to someone else. Point blank, period, right? So this is not the fault of Yusuf Ja. This is not the fault of his attorney that sat down with him in the proffer. It's not the fault of Greg Caden or of Reggie Wright or of Suge Knight or of P. Diddy. This is the fault of Keffe fucking D. Duane Keith Davis, okay? So tonight we're going to finish up the 45 minutes of the book, and then I'm going to read to you the grand jury indictment. The grand jury indictment is going to make note of the inconsistencies in some of Keffe D's statements. But as I stated previously on the last couple of lives that we have done in relation to Keffe D, that is immaterial because it is not important to the events that took place the night of the event. What's important is that he continuously is consistent in the statements that he makes about what happened the night of that event. And I have proven that these YouTubers who are out here saying that his statements are inconsistent are lying. They never even read the book, because if they would have read the book, if they would have looked at the cover, they would have seen that they are spelling his name incorrectly, his nickname anyway, incorrectly in every single one of their titles. So why would I pay attention to anybody who can't even pay attention to that little bit of piece of detail? How Vlad opened up the book and know what Keffe D said in the book, but then he ain't read on the front that on the front of his professional interview titles that he got the man's nickname spelled wrong according to what's in the book. The white media ain't get it wrong. They got it right. In the grand jury indictment, they don't got the nickname spelled wrong. They got it right. How come all of these black YouTubers and Vlad that spelled this name, man, nickname Keffe? Because they didn't read the damn book. So they don't know if his statements are consistent, inconsistent, or if he even made the fucking statement at all, because they didn't read it. Vlad took a piece of paper from somebody who handed him some shit from a poor researcher, obviously, because the researcher didn't even tell him. All the people that Vlad got over there on his team over there, nobody told him, hey, you might want to change the nickname, spell it right according to what it is on the book if you're going to be promoting the book, right? But no, that's not what was done, okay? So I don't believe none of these people. I don't believe nothing they say. And according to what we heard in this book and what we heard said on the Vlad interviews, Keffe D was consistent in his statements that he made in the book and on those interviews. And when I watched the interview, when we go to watch the interview, because I'm going to try to make arrange time through tomorrow and the weekend so that we could watch these interviews. But when you go to watch these interviews, it's not Keffe D forgetting what happened. Keffe D is saying, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to elaborate on that. Go and get the book if you want to know more about that. That is a marketing strategy. That ain't forgetting. That's not forgetting. That's either a marketing strategy or he recalls the advice that his attorney gave him to not do the interviews in the first place. He recalls the advice that his attorney gave him to not write the book in the first place. And so he's realizing, wait a minute, you trying to lead me into something that I don't necessarily want to talk about. He didn't want to talk about this stuff with Baby Lane. He didn't want to talk about Puffy's involvement. There were things that we heard that, but we never heard in the book where he says he asked Puff for money for him for hire. If anything, his agreement to do whatever it was that they might have agreed to do or didn't agree to do, it had to do with Von Zip. Probably not so much with Puff. The agreement was not with him. So it was Von Zip who skipped out on him and didn't pay him whatever he claims was supposed to be paid. Now, whether or not Puff was supposed to pay Von Zip and then that was supposed to go trickle down to them, I don't know. But in the book, there's no detail. So that's why we don't know. In the book, there is no detail about how this transaction was supposed to have switched hands, right? Because there's no even real conversation. Puff casually mentions that he would like to have these few people unalive, and then from the book, we don't have any more details. Okay, there's nothing. So we don't know what all is going on. We have to wait until we see the proffer to see what he told the Greg Caden in that proffer, and that is going to be made available in this trial. They have made that admissible evidence, and the book is admissible, and his interviews are admissible, okay? And there are lots of consistent statements within it, and we're going to read the grand jury indictment after we finish this 45 minutes so that we can see what they presented to the grand jury and these consistent statements, okay? So let's get started, and I'm going to be typing in the chat to avoid interrupting the reading so that we can finish and get through that. The grand jury indictment is about 21 pages, but some of that is like empty space. So it shouldn't be too much for us to go over tonight. And then that is going to conclude what we are going to go over for tonight. And then tomorrow, I will let you guys know sometime tomorrow during the day what we are going to be looking at. I'm pretty sure we're going to start with the Vlad interview. I don't know if we're going to have enough time to move over to the Art of Dialogue interview after that, but we're at least going to try to get through the Vlad interview so I can show you how what Keffe Dees has said in this book is consistent with statements that he made in front of Vlad. Okay? So let's get started. Give me 1 second. Let's remove this. Okay.
We know. 2 days before Thanksgiving in 2009, my phone rang. I recognized the number, but still cautiously answered. Who's this? Hey, Keffe, this is Wayne. Wayne Higgins was an attorney I had known for a long time. He was close with my mentor, FL, who had been murdered a few years prior, and somebody that I trusted. Hey, Keffe, you have a minute to talk? Yeah, what's up? You have a major problem going down. I need to talk to you. Come have dinner with me at Benihana's. All right, cool. We met at the Benihana in Beverly Hills on La Cienega Boulevard. Once we placed our orders, he said, the FBI wants to talk to you. What? Yeah, the FBI wants to talk to you. You have a serious problem. They got you. I cut him off. You tell them to go fuck themselves. Keffe, they just want to talk to you. Just the mention of the name FBI got me agitated. I raised my voice. Man, I don't want to talk to them, so fuck them. The people at the tables next to us started to give us worried looks, but I didn't give a fuck. The FBI must have given Wayne some code words to use if I became upset, because he paused, took a deep breath, leaned in closer and asked softly, do you have a cousin named Diane in Texas that you've been sending PCP to? No, man, that's some bullshit. But deep down, I knew it was right, and there was no way he could have known that. Tell them I don't want to talk. This conversation is over. While the conversation was over, at least the part where we discussed speaking with the FBI, the rest of the night, I couldn't stop thinking about what the FBI wanted to talk to me about. How the fuck did they know about my cousin Diane in Texas? The federal task force had been trying all kinds of stunts to get me to talk. A few months prior, they had set up a fake office at Universal Studios and had a movie executive call me. He wanted to talk because they were making a movie about Tupac and Biggie. I went down there and the guy said, I'm going to give you $500,000 if you help us as a consultant. That sounded like some police shit to me. So I called Wayne Higgins and he accompanied me to the follow-up meeting. While the guy was talking, Wayne interrupted what the dude was saying and asked the motherfucker, who are you in bed with? That choked the guy up. So I knew something was wrong. I never went back down there after that. But the feds knew from the movie shit that Wayne and I were friends. So I guess they called him to try to get me to talk with them. I was like, hell no. Around 4:30 a.m. the morning after having dinner with Mr. Higgins, as my wife was getting ready to leave for work, she raised the garage and there they were, the FBI. Tell Keffe D to come down. We want to talk to him. She tried to lie and said, Keffe D's not home. Paula, we just saw him take out the trash. We'll tear this house up, embarrass everybody, and put all of you on the streets right now. We want to talk to him. We're not here to arrest him. Paula came up and got me. When I came down into the garage, they made sure that I saw them removing the tracking devices off of all of my family members' cars. There were 2 white agents, Greg Kading and another agent named Jeff, and a black agent named D. But you better believe they had their goon squad nearby that would tear my shit up if I decided to act a fool. All I had to do was say, go fuck yourself. Do what you got to do, you son of a bitches, and the goon squad would have been called. The 3 agents came into the garage, so I pulled out a few folding chairs, closed the garage, and we sat there and talked like men. They began. We just want to talk to you. After a few minutes, the timer caused the lights in the garage to go off, and it was pitch black inside. That shit scared them to death. They said they wanted to talk, so I let them say what they had to say. You are running a criminal enterprise with all of your family. Then they started naming some of my family members who were involved. They told me that one of my cousins was the best at cooking up cocaine in the United States. What they were saying was mostly accurate, but my job was to listen to what they had to say. We have numerous cases against you that will lead to a life sentence. You're 46 years old and you're going to die in jail. Then they said, if you're planning to hire Edie Fall, we're going to arrest you right now. You can't hire Edie Fall. They knew I fucked with Edie because every time I would get a call, I would sick Edie Fall on them. Call him, Edie. That would back them up off of me because Edie is the king of getting people off on murder raps. You're going to go home messing with Edie. That's why law enforcement hated him. When Edie would come to visit me at the MDC, they'd be like, man, how you know him? I understood why they had that no Edie clause in the deal. Then the FBI agent Jeff pointed in the direction of the house across the street from mine and said, we've had that house right across the street from you the whole time. For real? Yeah. I owned a big house in the hills of Corona, so they had to spend a pretty penny to take over that house. They explained that they had a 146-man task force that had been following us around for the past 2 to 3 years. Keffe D, we got your ass. All of your friends have turned on you. Then they started naming the people who were going down with me if I didn't cooperate with them. Boss Man, my Mexican plug out in the valley, they named them all. We got all y'all. Then D, the black agent, said, Keffe, we have some more stuff on you. It's going to break your heart, dude. We also have you on numerous murders. There was an uncomfortable pause, and I responded, I ain't killed nobody. Nonchalantly, D said, we know. The cold-ass, matter-of-fact response put a chill down my spine. D's response had me thinking, who had they been talking to? On the way out of the garage, the agent Jeff was speaking to me, and he handed me his card. Greg Kading saw and heard me talking with Jeff. So when Kading got me alone, he said, if you call them, all deals are off. Kading and D were detectives with the Los Angeles Police Department, who were deputized as federal agents for that investigation as part of the task force. Jeff actually worked for the FBI. I guess Greg Kading didn't want me speaking to Jeff because he wanted everything to go through him so that he could become known as the super cop who solved the Tupac and Biggie murders. Before they left, their last comment was, You need to come downtown to our office before 5 o'clock p.m. to speak with us. My wife ended up not going to work that day, and I spent the next few hours telling my wife and kids to go fuck themselves because they were all encouraging me to go downtown to their offices and talk to them. I was adamant. I'm not doing that bullshit. I wasn't raised like that. I was going crazy. Fuck them. Junior, my oldest daughter, had tears in her eyes as she said, "Dad, you've missed half of my life. I don't need you missing my kids' lives." At that point, I had spent close to 15 years of my life locked up behind bars. They don't give out chances like this. They're giving you a chance, Dad, and they don't usually do this. I was heated. Go fuck yourself. They were all crying. Even my son-in-law, that snake-ass bitch Menace. He was in there crying because he was living with us at the time and was going to get 10 years too. My oldest daughter was like, "Daddy, you're tripping." It was me against the whole family. I guess I'm the only one that ain't no punk. Y'all a bunch of bitches letting these people scare the shit out of you. You're going to get a life sentence. Motherfucker, you can't get no life sentence for a kilo of coke and a gallon of water. The most I could get is 10 years. You've been to the feds before. That's an automatic double. I refuted that point. I pled guilty in the first court. I knew my shit. The only thing that kept me from telling the feds, "I don't roll over like that, go fuck yourselves, take me to jail," was the comment D made when he said, "We know." That was a cold comeback. I just needed one person to side with me and back me up. I was confident my youngest daughter, who wasn't home at the time, was going to be that person. She and I were tight. And when she came back, I just knew, because she was a little gangster like me, she was going to say, "It's all right, Dad, ride it out. Fuck them." Instead, when she got home and heard what was going on, she said, "Nah, Dad, tell them. Tell them what they want to know. We need you here." It was baby girl's input that was the deciding vote for me. I picked up the phone to make the most challenging call of my life. Betrayal. Even as the phone rang, I was having second thoughts. Ring. What if they're bluffing? Ring. You weren't raised like this. Ring. Luckily, he picked up the phone, or I might have talked myself out of the shit. "Attorney Wayne Higgins, how may I help you?" "Yo, Wayne, this is Keffe." "Hey, what's up, Keffe?" "Man, listen. If you go down to speak with them folks with me, I'll go." "All right, let me make some calls and set it up." Wayne called me back after a few minutes and told me the meeting was set. This was the day before Thanksgiving. He and I made arrangements to meet downtown at their offices. When we walked into the room, they were already prepared with their mental games. They had pictures of 4 snitches from my crew on the fucking board. Uchi, C-Ray, the Reaper, and Dirt Rock. I pretended like I didn't see the pictures and said, "Show me what you got." They pulled down a video projector screen and showed a few minutes of footage of 9 people leaving my house. The footage started off showing my son and my son's best friend, who was living with us at the time, bringing some men's land bags into the house. They made it look like my son and his friend brought me some kilos in the men's land bags, but they didn't. That part they had wrong. My son and his friend were coming to show me the school clothes they had bought. I happened to use the same men's land bags for the people that came to purchase kilos from me later that day, so it did look like my son bought the kilos to me. The room was quiet as we looked at the footage. Then one of them said, "You had a hell of a day this day," which was true. I happened to sell 35 kilos that day. Then they showed footage of all the people that left from my house that day with those men's land bags, as well as footage of each one of them getting pulled over after they left my house. Not one of them motherfuckers said, "Keffe D, they're on your ass. They stopped me when we left your spot." I'm talking about some of my closest friends, and not one of them said a word. One of the agents said, "The dope game is over, Keffe D. Did any of these dudes tell you that they got pulled over that day?" I just stared at the screen and remained quiet because the honest answer to the question was too painful for me to face. The agent continued, "These dudes are weak. It's not the same anymore." I couldn't disagree. I trusted those dudes, and I shouldn't have. The world and the dope game had changed. These new guys in the game wear tight pants like bitches. Even in the rap game, niggas wear skinny jeans, girl blouses, colored hair. That's some bullshit. For more than 15 years, the feds have been on my ass about those 2 hip-hop murders. Even when I was locked up for 5.5 years, they wouldn't leave me alone. During the meeting, the feds told me that they had 18 people who had gone to the grand jury to testify against my ass. It's mind-boggling to me because I didn't even have 18 people close to me like that. It meant my homies, even some of my kinfolks, would have gone down there on my ass. As I was sitting there, my mind started flashing back to some of the niggas whose pictures were up on that board and a few that weren't. It all started to come together and make sense. The Reaper. One day while over on 60th and Overhill in my partner Bubble Up's living room, Uchi, Dirt Rock, and a guy named Tucker pulled up in Tucker's Cadillac truck. These were 3 guys that were close to me, especially Uchi. Uchi, Dirt Rock, and Tucker jumped out of the Cadillac truck and said, "Man, we just seen the Reaper." The Reaper was the guy in the car with Baby Lane when he got killed. The Reaper was sentenced to 3 life sentences in that case. In that shootout, not only did my nephew get killed, but 2 other guys also died. The Reaper was a motherfucker that earned his nickname. That little nigga was cold. The Reaper spoke with the feds and alleged that I supplied him with weapons and ordered a whole bunch of hits. Surprised, I asked, "You just seen the Reaper?" "Yeah," all 3 confirmed. "Where at?" "At the basketball game," which was some illogical shit to say. At the time, I was dealing with the Reaper's cousin, and she told me that the Reaper was downtown in MDC. I thought to myself, what the fuck is the Reaper doing in MDC? He ain't got no business down at the MDC because he has a state case. Then these 3 dudes jumped out the truck and told me that they had seen the Reaper that day. At that moment, I realized how those 3 saw the Reaper. They were all at the grand jury together, including the Reaper. They just changed where they said they saw him. I could picture that shit. Those motherfuckers did see the Reaper. From that, I knew for sure those 4, the Reaper, Uchi, Dirt Rock, and Tucker, was part of the 18 who were on the grand jury against me. They were guys I would be with every day. Uchi. Uchi was the guy I trusted to handle my phones. So every month when I would change my numbers, he was the one responsible for getting me my new numbers. What I learned later on was that Uchi was getting my new numbers and giving them directly to the feds. When that fat FBI agent started imitating Uchi's voice and saying things like, "What it do?" and using mannerisms that came directly from my homie, it became evident that he turned on me. That shit made me cry. I remember the day he flipped because we had one of his people named Joe from Long Beach that would buy 2 chickens every 3 days. Uchi came over, picked up the 2 chickens and said, "I'll be back in about 30 minutes with the money." When he left the spot, the feds pulled his ass over. He was gone for 3 or 4 hours, but he was pulled over by the feds the whole time. I kept calling him, but he didn't answer. Where's Uchi ass at? What happened was the feds took the chickens from him, let him go, and told him he was now working for them. In an attempt to cover his ass and buy some time, he picked up the dude's money and turned it into me. About 3 or 4 days passed, so I asked Joe if he wanted to buy some more chickens. That's when I learned Joe didn't have any more money to buy chickens because he had already paid Uchi, but never received the chickens because the feds had it. Dirt Rock. There was a little team of Southsiders who had gone out to Virginia and started rolling, selling work. Dirt Rock was one of them. They got busted in Virginia, but didn't ever tell me about it. When they got busted, they told Virginia police to come niggas from my hoods, get out of jail free pass. Keffe D killed Tupac. Virginia law enforcement contacted the LA FBI field office to share what they had been told. Meanwhile, I was out in Cali doing my thing with my homies when I ran into Dirt Rock at a barbershop. "Hey, Keffe D, my brother-in-law wants to buy some keys." "All right, y'all meet me at my spot in Paramount." Dirt Rock came out to Paramount and copped some kilos from me. When he came in, I felt something was fishy because the money he paid with was all fucked up. The nigga came with all $100 bills, but he had them in $1,000 stacks. From my experience in the dope game, if you have all hundreds, you put them on one rubber band. You don't put them in 1,000 stacks. I didn't feel good at all about that day. Then the Fed sent him back to buy some PCP from me. The money he came with was the same fucked up way. $100 bills stacked in thousands. I felt that the money wasn't right, but I gave the homie the benefit of the doubt. Dirt Rock didn't only have his problems from selling dope in Virginia, but the nigga also caught a triple murder case in LA. One of my little homies had a Cadillac truck that he wanted to sell for $46,000 cash. He put an ad in the local paper, and some guys said they wanted to buy it. They set up a location to meet, and when the guys pulled up in their Mercedes-Benz, my homeboys drew down on them. They took the money, put the guys in the Mercedes-Benz, and shot them all in the head. Then they went and dropped the car off in the Starbucks parking lot in another city. But the surveillance camera at the Starbucks recorded them dropping the car off. The car sat there for about 3 weeks, and the bodies started stinking. The police researched and found the original truck ad with the number that was listed, and eventually tracked them down. Dirt Rock was one of the dudes that was part of that triple murder case, and now he's walking the streets so that they could bring down Keffe D. Tucker. Tucker was a young guy from my hood that was one of the best high school basketball players on the West Coast. As a youngster, I took him to a couple of fights to show him the ropes. He was recruited by Arizona State to play basketball, but that got derailed when Tucker, George Gervin's son, and another recruit were accused of physically and sexually assaulting some girls, so they were kicked out of school. He ended up getting a scholarship to Pepperdine. My boy Victor, the youngster from Lakewood Mall that took the death row chain, got killed hanging out with Tucker. The day Victor got killed, I went to pick him up from his house. Victor, Lane and them said, come on, they just did something. He came to my truck and said, Keffe D, I'm going to Pepperdine to spend a week with Tucker up at the dorms to fuck with them broads. All right, cool. Be careful. So I took off. By the time I got to Hawthorne, I got word that Victor had been shot. Tucker had gone into the weed spot, and Lil Ace was up in the shop. He asked Tucker, who is that? Victor in the car? Tucker answered, yeah, we're fixing to go up to Pepperdine. Little Ace was from Southside also. Little Ace left the weed spot and shot Victor in the head while he was sitting in Tucker's father's car. Tucker had to get on the stand on Little Ace because he killed the guy in his car. Tucker started playing basketball with Pepperdine, and one day Baby Lane and I was sitting up in the trap when Tucker came over and said, the feds pulled me over, Keffe D. The feds pulled you over? Yeah, I was coming from college and they were asking a lot of questions about you. This was a few days before they took me down. Lane was laying on the couch acting like he was asleep. When Tucker left, Lane said, that nigga is off his rocker. Something wrong with that nigga. For real? Yeah, I don't trust that nigga. But I give him credit. He was actually telling the truth. Menace. Menace had become my right-hand man because he was dating my daughter. I wanted him to be able to provide for my daughter, so I made sure he was making money through hustling. Menace had an apartment in Paramount, which is where we were doing a lot of our transactions at the time. As part of that task force, the feds also had an apartment in the same apartment complex. I figured one day, when Menace was in there by himself, the feds ran in there on his ass, and he never let me know. A few months after Dirt Rock copped a gallon of PCP from me, Menace came and said he needed a gallon of PCP. My cousin Speedo only had one left. I told Speedo to go ahead and give it to Menace and that he would bring the money back. Menace took the gallon and then brought it back 30 minutes later and said it wasn't any good. 30 minutes after that, my cousin Speedo called me. Cousin Keith, that motherfucking Menace set me up. Why you say that? You know damn well that was the best water in town. The FBI is at my house right now with the hazmat team. He set me up. I'm gonna get that motherfucker. I defended Menace. There's no way he could do that to you. My cousin said, if you think I'm lying, go by my house right now. I jumped in my ride and rode by Speedo's house. And sure enough, there was a fire truck, hazmat team, FBI agents, and people in chemical suits going into this house. I was trying to give Menace the benefit of the doubt. But as I look back at everything, it's clear that Menace did set my cousin up. The way I know Menace set my cousin up is because once the feds came in on me, they told me that my family had the best PCP they had ever tested. All of them dudes were folding like folding chairs. The guys who flipped on me, some of them were even my family members. They don't know, but they would have been looking at 20 to 30 years if it wasn't for me. Some of them have the nerve to be out in the streets and on social media talking shit. What they don't know is the feds were going to press them all for money, and whoever didn't kick in was going to jail. We're doing a fundraiser. We need some money for Keffe D. He saved y'all's ass. The feds are that cold. I told them, hell no, don't press nobody. Don't do that shit. Leave that shit alone. Over the years, I've been asked why I ignored some of the red flags that popped up around me. All I can say is I couldn't ever imagine that the fellas I had around me would be so weak and flip on me like that, especially since we had such a good thing going. Once my mind stopped wandering and they were finishing up their presentation, they said, Keffe D, enjoy your holidays. We need your decision by January the 9th. After I saw all the evidence they had and all the people that had flipped on me, I realized I was cooked grease. I didn't go home and tell anybody in my family that I went down to meet with the feds. In fact, I didn't tell anybody, period. That whole next week, I couldn't even sleep from the stress of thinking about my predicament. I didn't want to do any punk ass shit. That was against my code, against everything I stood for and believed. That's the main reason I fought my family so hard, is I knew that there was a code on the streets, and in an earlier period, I would die fucking around with the police like that. I had been living this life for years and had never done that to anybody and never would do that to anybody. I wanted to tell them feds, fuck it, I ain't doing that shit. Take everything, because I don't do that. As part of their mind game, knowing I'm a family man, they gave me Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's to think about it. That was the most stressful, fucked up time in my life. I was dazed and confused about what to do. January 9th came, and my attorney, Wayne Higgins, and I went on down to their offices to meet with them. The task force was feeling some heat on their side because Biggie's mother was suing the Los Angeles Police Department for hundreds of millions of dollars. So they were willing to offer me an exceptional deal, department in Washington, D.C. to come to get you. He continued, tell your cousin Speedo he's not getting away this time because I dot all my I's and cross my T's. They even have fucking Bluebeard, who worked out of the same office, pop his head in there talking about, I'm telling you guys, you're doing a deal with the devil. I would lock all of them up if it were up to me. Somebody's going to wind up dead. I don't know if his guest appearance was part of their psychological mind games to break me down, but I'm not going to lie. The shit was effective because I already knew how tenacious Bluebeard could be. Greg Kading, a redheaded, freckle-faced dude, sat there licking his chops, and the session started. Keffe, if you lie to us, we already know everything. If you lie to us, all deals are off. My attorney, Wayne Higgins, told me before we got in there, don't get in there and lie because that's perjury against the government. I kept that in mind as I began to speak. There was something I needed to get off my chest from the start. Let me tell you motherfuckers something. If y'all think I'm going to run around here buying kilos and setting up my peers and all that old shit, you can lock me the fuck up right now because I'm not doing that shit. That's going to get somebody fucking killed. Their initial questions were primarily about Biggie's murder. They were saying, y'all killed Biggie too, because they didn't pay you the money for Tupac. It appeared the Biggie case was the only one they were really trying to solve because Biggie's mother had the LAPD tied up in a big-time wrongful death lawsuit. So they thundered down on me hard trying to solve that case in order to get out of that lawsuit. They thought we had hit Biggie too. They were coming at me so hard on the Biggie issue that at one point I paused and silently asked myself, did we kill Biggie? That shit only lasted for a second because I knew Biggie wasn't us. I'm telling you, we didn't have nothing to do with Biggie. That wasn't us. Go get the bitch and she'll tell you everything you need to know about the Biggie killing. They seemed to understand and respect where I was coming from. I can only tell you what the fuck we did. Startled, one of them responded, wait, what do you mean? Clearly shocked and surprised by my words because they were not used to me cooperating with them at all. I went ahead and started answering their questions about the events leading up to Tupac getting shot. The feds had followed me around for 15 years. It was finally time to get the shit off my chest and over with. Everybody else from my neighborhood was getting off on the shit. Why not get off on my own shit? I sang because they promised I would not be prosecuted. I thought they were lying to me, but they kept their word and stopped the indictment, tore up the whole case. Nobody went to jail. They let my cousins, boss man, and some other heavyweights go. They would have taken us all down. The feds have a conviction rate of 98%. The feds don't come unless they have your ass. Shit. They let me go on a case that carried the death sentence. And when you're fucking with the feds, you die in their electric chair within 5 years. My ass was fried, and everybody else. All 48 people were gonna be fried. They don't play downtown. That's the way they operate. From the minute I walked out of their offices, I haven't felt the same. I felt like a dirty, rotten son of a bitch. I still feel awful about what I did to this day. That shit fucked with me mentally because that wasn't me. I did it for my family. I could have went out there like everybody else and faked it. All 18 of them dudes kept selling dope, running the streets and everything. Once I made the decision to cooperate with the government, I could have done like I wanted. As long as I didn't do some blatant shit like murder somebody in the middle of the street, they would have given me a pass. In fact, they might have even helped me. One of the FBI agents told me, "Man, if you can get me a big bus, I'll give you half the money. I know where there are millions right now. We're giving percentages. We can go 50-50. You'll get rich working with us." The government is crooked as can be. But I was done. I stopped selling dope and everything, even though I had a license to sell dope. I didn't feel good within myself. To add insult to injury and make matters way worse, can you imagine how I felt when my son came home one day and told me, "Yo, Dad, they have a recording of your voice on the internet." "You bullshitting. Get the fuck out of here. There ain't no recordings of me out there." "If you say so." He pulled out a laptop, and after a minute or so, he said, "Well, listen to this shit then." Sure enough, one of the agents, Greg Kading, apparently sat there with a tape recorder in his pocket, talking about he wasn't recording and recorded the proffer session. I know for a fact that I didn't sign anything or give permission for anyone to record the meeting. Then he took the recording when he was no longer working with the LAPD and profited off of it by using the recording as part of news stories he did with different news and entertainment companies, all while putting my life on the line. That's some crooked shit. No matter how you slice it, that shit was dirty. They've been doing me wrong for a long time. The first question I usually get from people is, "How is it that you're not in jail?" I've explained the deal that kept my ass out of jail, but I've yet to hear anyone press Greg Kading's ass on how he obtained the infamous Keffe D tapes that was featured in the LA Weekly newspaper back in 2011, and has been featured in a few TV documentaries and specials on the topic of who shot Tupac and Biggie. The introduction to the LA Weekly article reads, "A 3-hour recording of Keffe D's admissions, lifted from LAPD archives by ex-detective Greg Kading." Not sure about you, but where I come from, the word lifted means to steal something, point blank, period. Even the Merriam-Webster dictionary agrees that lifted means to steal. Former detective Greg Kading admitted to secretly recording me during an investigation while he was an employee of the Los Angeles Police Department. Then he takes the recording and releases it to the public for his personal financial gain, and nobody checks his ass for it? What Greg Kading did was blatantly unethical. And if it's not illegal, the shit definitely should be. Releasing the tape of our confidential session, which I never agreed to be recorded in the first place, jeopardized my life and also put my family's life in jeopardy. Kading is still out here profiting from his books, interviews, contributing to documentaries, executive producing docuseries, and making movies. Shit. Professionals who work in education, hospitals, lawyers, and priests all have standards that protect people's sensitive information from being released to the public. But rogue cops can publish confidential details with impunity? That's some bullshit. Law enforcement officials often complain about the difficulty they have in solving cases in Black and brown communities because no one wants to talk to the police. Usually, out of fear that they will be labeled a snitch and the target of retaliation. In my situation, I spoke to the police, not giving a fuck about what people would say because I know the real, and they offered me a sweeter deal than Sammy the Bull Gravano. My point is, with people in the hood already harboring feelings of distrust against law enforcement, when they learn about what a former detective did with my confidential communication and put my family and me in harm's way like that, it's going to make things even worse. My saving grace is the shit I talked about in the session was the shit that I did. Not one person went to jail behind any of the shit I said in my interview. In fact, I saved a lot of motherfuckers from going to jail for extremely long sentences with my cooperation. They were poised to take down 48 different people, some with life sentences. I think about the harm that would have done to the families, the kids and grandkids, the community, and it allows me to rest a little more peacefully at night. It kills me on the inside to know that I told them anything. I'm a soldier. I was the face of the game. I was one of the first guys in Compton to do this shit at that level. Some days, I wish I would have gone on in and took it like the soldier that I am. I did something that wasn't me. Epilogue. Where is the love? My last words are reserved for those of you who have been hiding under rocks, thinking you've gotten away with the dirty shit you've done to me. I need to include this section because there are people out there trying to make me look like a fucked up dude. I'm here to expose you. You know who you are. When I got involved in the drug game, my goal was for all of us to have homes, money, and nice things in life. To have fun like a family. I made sure your kids were fed, went to school looking nice, all that. But you guys allowed the white man to come in and divide us. Just because they have the little FBI shit on their back doesn't mean anything. They're the same as us. They're human just like us. The white man has been doing us like this for 400 years. And y'all let them come in and divide us like that? Y'all are wrong. Sold me out for chicken change. Which leads me to my first target. Greg Kading. Kading, you're a snake. You seriously jeopardize the lives and safety of myself and my family so you could be seen as the super cop who solved the Tupac and Biggie murders? You ain't did shit, bitch. If it wasn't for the FBI and the U.S. attorney they sicked on my ass, I wouldn't have told you a motherfucking thing with your weak ass shit. You wasn't nothing but a little LAPD detective. If truth is your defense, then you should have told the whole truth. Instead, you just put my name and identity out in the public and concealed the identities of all the other motherfuckers underneath me that flipped. You used them in order to get to me. I've been to the federal prison system, so I know all the codes and everything about the system. Anyone who has been to the feds knows there are sentencing guidelines. And if you have a federal case, you have to be sentenced under those guidelines. I received a 70-month sentence from a fucking 7-second phone call based on the sentencing guidelines. They gave me 10 months per second. They didn't catch me with anything, just an ambiguous phone call, and I did 70 months. If you get caught, do your fucking time, homie. I got caught and did mine. When I reviewed the paperwork surrounding my case from the Freedom of Information Act, it fucked me up. Most of the names and sensitive information have been redacted, but it's easy for me to know who and what they're talking about because I was there. The shit happened to me. The paperwork confirmed what I instinctively already knew. Some of those closest to me had flipped on me and put me in a fucked up predicament. The shit ain't right. A lot of the dudes I thought were true to this game weren't true at all. It seems like they envied me and wanted to take my place. I was good to everybody, and I hate that they put me in a mix like that. Put all that shit on me. Here are some of the major perpetrators, guys who got caught with way worse shit than me. And based on the sentencing guidelines, they should have been sentenced to considerable prison time. Take a look at the sentencing table and controlled substance schedules and decide for yourself. Tucker. Retired NBA player Tayshaun Prince's brother. Tucker has been on the streets telling people that I was snitching. But bitch, you work for the FBI, motherfucker. You're on their payroll. They couldn't get you out this last time. They gave you 21 years for robbing drug dealers, and you deserve every day you have coming. You were out there doing too motherfucking much. You sat up there and set me up on Burris with that money. You wrong, homie. Running around setting up everybody. I really saved your life. You got little Ace life. They killed Victor in your daddy's car, so you got him life. The top brass from Southside had a round table meeting about your ass, and I saved your life, dude. And you gonna do me like that, homie? Dirt Rock. Dirt Rock, you come over to buy some shit from me? The next day the apartment gets raided? Menace. Menace, you was there and didn't tell me shit. You sat up there and worked with them people and crossed me the whole time? Lost your apartment, then you moved back in my house knowing you're working with the FBI? You're wrong as hell. Got my cousin Big Mike 30 years? Wrong, man. Now you running around babying them in New Orleans talking about you ain't did nothing. That's why you're snorting all that fucking coke. You know what the fuck you did. You didn't even have enough heart to come and tell me like a man. You thought you got away, dude? Uchi. Uchi. The federal agent was sitting up there talking like you, but you were my best friend. I have been knowing you since 1965. I know you've passed away, but that was wrong, homie. They followed you around for 2 months, busted you, and you didn't tell me shit. C-Ray, you get caught in Ohio with 3 gallons of PCP and a kilo of cocaine and only did a year and a half? The minimum sentence for getting caught with 3 gallons of water is at least 20 years, according to the federal sentencing guidelines in their point system. 3 gallons of water gets you 38 points. The first line on the sentencing guidelines for getting busted with that is 20 years. 3 gallons of water and you only do a year and a half? You've been snitching the whole time. When you got raided on the Biggie Smalls raid, you're the only one they raided that knew the inner workings of our business like that. I knew you were snitching. You told them everything, dude. You're wrong, homie. Now you're sitting up there around my family acting like you ain't did shit. Bitch, you know what you did. Then you have the nerve to ask my son, is everything cool? Nigga, it will never be cool, nigga. You fucked up our life, bitch. Then you got on TV and said the dog had the gun in his mouth. Nah, homie. I got the Freedom of Information Act paperwork. The gun came out of the flower pot in your back house when they raided you in 2001. You can get on TV and say what you want to say. You know the truth. I was real good to you. I had your back and all that, homie. When dudes didn't want you around, I told you to come on, nigga. I had you. The Reaper. Reaper, sit up there in fucking prison and do your fucking time. Trying to get a transfer on me. Come on, homie. You're wrong, homie. Then you talk about, I don't send you anything. Of course I won't send you anything. You did a lot of foul shit. The first day I went to the feds, the day before Lane got killed, the feds told me how you set us up for a robbery. They had your grandmother's phone tapped. I know everything about your ass. You're a snake. Out-of-towners. You niggas out there in Virginia, one named Pete in Richmond, Virginia. Nigga, you don't even know anything about me, and you out there snitching on me. You don't know me, Pedro Hernandez and Geno Smith out there in Virginia Beach. I know Dirt Rock and Tucker went out there and set your ass up, but you don't know nothing about me. You didn't even want me in your town because I was all up on your punk ass. You think you slick with that little weak ass game you got? You need to just keep dumping trash and stay up out of the game because you're a weak ass bitch. Nameless. One dude who shall remain nameless, but you know who you are, got caught out in St. Louis with 14 kilos. Man, 14 kilos gets you an automatic minimum sentence of 10 years based on the sentencing guidelines. How the fuck you only do 2 years after getting caught with 14 kilos? It would take an act of Congress to get off that shit, unless you're cooperating with the government. Boss man. Boss man, you kind of did me wrong too. You teach me some shit, but it seemed like you teach me to beat me. Then you go around saying Keffe D snitching. I saved your life. You and the dude I introduced you to, I saved both your lives. They had your asses punished. You just don't know, bro. But it was behind me. They had all of us. Boss man, you already know how they can come in and destroy your life. I chose to save lives rather than destroy lives. I saved 48 people from getting indicted. The Fed sent some dude from DC to get me, and y'all simply fell into the pot that was already cooking. When you got out, you fell right in like a big target. It seemed like they were waiting for that to happen. I saved your life, and I think you ought to thank me for that instead of trying to put salt on my name. At first, I was mad about this whole situation, but I'm free now. As time goes by, I realized I was offered the deal of a lifetime. They were going to punish our asses. I would never have said a word if they didn't give me such a sweet deal. I didn't have to do a day of time, save 48 people's lives, and I didn't tell on anybody but myself because everybody else was already dead. Think about it. This is a Kingdom Media production. The end.
Audible hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Here's a recommended preview based on your listening. To listen to the full title, you can buy it in your player.
Okay, you guys, so that's the end. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? Hey, Cookie Boo, what do you guys think? That's the end. Keffe did triple. So I guess that last time. So you want to add? Okay. And I'm gonna make this bigger, you guys. Okay. So this indictment, this was placed before the grand jury in the 8th Judicial District in Clark County, Nevada. It was September the 14th of 2023, and the hearing started at 8:36 a.m. Okay. So the grand jury presents on September 14th, 2023. Loretta, it just gives all of the names of the people who are present, okay? We can skip through that. Okay, I can't see too good. Hold on. I don't think I can make it big. Okay, so it says Las Vegas, Nevada, September 14th, 2023. Danette L. Antonasi, having been first duly sworn to faithfully and accurately transcribe the following proceedings to the best of her ability. The foreperson. Let the record reflect that I have canvassed the waiting area, and no one has appeared in response to notice of intent to seek indictment. Mr. Okay, some of this is blurry, y'all. Wait a minute, hold on. I got to get to my other document. I was trying to do it so you guys could see it, but I can't see from right here. So hold on. I got to read it from the PDF. Because this is, I cannot see. Hold on. I'm sorry, gentlemen. My name is Mark DiGiacomo. I'm a deputy district attorney here in Clark County. We're here to continue presenting evidence in grand jury case number 22CGJ117X. If there are no questions, I will continue with Detective Moog, the foreperson. You're all ready? You do solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give upon the investigation now pending before this grand jury shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. The witness, I do. The foreperson, please be seated. You are advised that you are here today to give testimony in the investigation pertaining to the offense of murder with use of a deadly weapon with the intent to promote, further, or assist a criminal gang involving Duane Davis. Do you understand this statement? The witness, I do. The foreperson. Please state your first and last name and spell them both for the record. The witness, Clifford, Clifford, Moog, Moogg. Clifford Moog. Having been first duly sworn by the 4 persons of the grand jury to testify to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, testified as follows. Examination by Mr. DiGiacomo. Detective Moog, you were here last week, and you had presented some of a lengthy interview of Mr. Davis concerning the events surrounding Mr. Shakur's death. Is that accurate? So let me stop real quick. This is the, I'm buffering. Is it still buffering now? Is it still doing it? Let me know if you guys are having trouble hearing. Because it's not saying anything is wrong with my internet. I might have fixed whatever it was. Okay. So I stopped right here just for a second. So I told y'all I'm waiting for the confirmation, the letter to come in the mail for me to confirm Pacer. I don't know if the people who have access to Pacer can get the first part of this grand jury hearing, the hearing with the grand jury. I don't think they can, though, because I think that what was testified to, what Detective Moog is testifying to, pertains to the meeting during the proffer and his interview during the proffer. And that is something that is going to be entered into evidence that will be able to be used in evidence, but I don't think it was able to be used during the grand jury hearing. Not the actual recording that happened between him and Greg Hayden. So I think that the detective testified to it. I'm not for sure because I don't have access to that. But what he's asking him about is about testifying to that, okay? Testifying to that interview. That is the interview that they're referring to. So that's the thing that we're missing, okay? So let's start again. So Detective Moog, you were here last week and you had presented sort of a lengthy interview of Mr. Davis concerning the events surrounding Mr. Shakur's death. Is that accurate? Detective Moog, yes. Mr. DiGiacomo, you have within grand jury exhibit number 48, 3 more, I'll call them clips, some more lengthy than others, describing certain facts and circumstances surrounding that as well. Detective Moog, that's correct. In addition to that, there are numerous other times that Mr. Davis has been portrayed on the internet in videos describing essentially the same version of events. Detective Moog, there's hours worth. The prosecutor, I'm going to just say the prosecutor instead of keep going back and trying to say his name. And during those hours, while you would agree with me, there are some small inconsistencies, some of which he gets confronted with. Is that fair? The witness, correct. The prosecutor. But ultimately, his story is fairly consistent on who's in the car, what direction it's heading, when they realize that the caravan with Suge and Mr. Shakur are in it, and that they do a U-turn and pull up on the gutter, and they shoot the vehicle, essentially. The witness, that's correct. The prosecutor. So I'm going to play what's marked on grand jury exhibit number 48 as number 2. They play a video, okay? And then the prosecutor says, we'll go to the next clip, which is marked as 3. They play another video. And then the prosecutor asks, now, detective, to clear something up, you reviewed the transcript of Suge Knight's formal interview with police. Is that fair? The witness, yes. The prosecutor, and would you agree or disagree that he was less than forthcoming about both the events at the MGM as well as the shooting event itself? The witness, yeah. He was less than cooperative with the detectives that were interviewing him that night. The prosecutor. So when Keffe D says Suge told the police that first night, he's at least Suge didn't tell Metro that first night, correct? The witness. I don't have any evidence that Suge Knight told the Metropolitan Police Department or any other police department who was involved in the shooting and who was involved in the shooting him and Tupac Shakur. That's what it says. I don't know why it says it like that. The prosecutor. You, since in your investigation and this grand jury's heard from Reggie Wright Jr., is that correct? The witness, there was. The prosecutor, have you ever received a full copy of the recording that allegedly occurs in LA sometime between 2006 and 2009? The witness, I have not. The prosecutor, the only parts of that you know about are what has been posted on the internet in small snippets. The witness, that's correct. The prosecutor, thank you. That completes my questions for the witness. Does the grand jury have any questions by a juror? This is going to be a question from the juror. Did you personally interview Keffe D? The witness answers, I was there when I executed a search warrant at his residence, and I sat in the car with him for a while, but there wasn't an interview conducted per se. He did not want to talk. The juror says, okay. And then the prosecutor says, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot use the fact that he chose to remain silent with Detective Moog in consideration of the probable cause in this particular case. So there's another question that comes by a juror. I have a question. In regards to the home with the warrant, did you guys obtain anything? The response, there was evidence that we obtained that was relevant to this case from his house in Henderson. It says question, and then the prosecutor says, and let me first of all the electronics that were in that house were collected, correct? And the answer was electronics that we believe were relevant to the investigation were collected. So it seems like the prosecutor is picking up from the question that the juror asked, and now they are going to help the juror to get some clarification, I guess, around that questioning. So, and what was the purpose of collecting those particular electronics? The witness says, so we took his cell phone that he had with him at the time the warrant was executed because I want to review the downloads from that phone to see if there's any communications between him and anyone else associated with this investigation. When I say that, I mean people who he was conducting YouTube interviews with, documentation as to his involvement in the Death Row Chronicles documentary, and then anything that would have been related to his involvement and the publication of his book. Question. In addition, were you looking to see if there were evidence of remuneration or financial payments for his claims of being responsible for the death of a copy of Greg Caden's book, Murder Rap? Question. In talking about those newspaper articles, he references in his interviews very early on that the LA Times was reporting Keffe D's nephew, Orlando Anderson, as being a potential suspect in the early part of September. Early to mid part of September. Do you recall that? Answer, yes. Question. And Keffe D actually kept a copy of those LA Times articles. Answer, he did. Question. Lastly, within those bins, did you locate a search warrant and return from the Compton Police Department in May of 1998? Answer, we did. The search warrant return was from Detective Tim Brennan, and he also mentioned his partner, Detective Ladd, in that. One of the items that was listed on the return was a receipt from the Monte Carlo Hotel Joe. They found a receipt of the Monte Carlo Hotel, which puts Keffe D in Las Vegas. And he keeps telling the media they got to prove he was in Las Vegas. Okay? So, question. Prior to recovery of that, did you have evidence from the Monte Carlo that Keffe D had stayed at the Monte Carlo at the time of the Tyson fight? The answer is I did not. So they only found a receipt. They did not recover evidence from the Monte Carlo that Keffe D had stayed there, but the receipt was in his possession. Okay, so question. But you did have, and he mentions repeatedly throughout the interview, C. Ray or a guy named Corey Edwards, correct? Answer, yes. Question. And his claim is that Corey Edwards is in the van before he gets out of the van and gets into, before Keffe D gets out of the van and gets into the Cadillac. Answer, that's correct. Question, and you do have records establishing that Corey Edwards, from way back in the initial investigation, was staying at the Monte Carlo. Answer, he was staying at the Monte Carlo during that time that Tupac was murdered. The prosecutor says thank you. Any other questions? And then another juror is going to ask a question. Question, going way back, was the weapon that was used and or the car, the white Cadillac, either one of those ever recovered? Answer, neither one were ever recovered. We have information about them, but we were never able to identify the person who rented the car, where it was rented from, and then when it comes to the gun, we have never recovered, as of this date, the weapon that was used in the murder. Question, has it been verified that the Cadillac was rented, or is that just what was said? Answer, that's information that I obtained from numerous detectives that were working various parts of either this case or some other investigation in the Compton area. The prosecutor asked these questions. Now, these are a set of questions that the prosecutor is going to ask as a result of the juror questions. So let me ask you this. During the course of your investigation, you learned that obviously Bubble Up Terrence Brown. Can you guys hear me okay? Because I don't know why it would be buffering. There's nothing wrong with my internet connection, so I don't know why it would be doing that. Can you guys hear me okay? Let me know if you guys can hear me or not. Wait a minute. Let me see if I can test myself. So let's see if I can hear it. Working various parts of either this case or some other investigation in the Compton area. The prosecutor asked these questions. Now, these are a set of questions that the prosecutor is going to ask as a result of the juror questions. So let me ask you this. During the course of your investigation, you learned that obviously Bubble Up Terrence Brown. Can you guys hear me okay? I don't know why, because I can hear it. It seems like it's delayed or something. I don't know, but I can hear it. So I don't know. I'm gonna continue and then you guys can try to go back. But it's on the recording, it's going through fine. So I don't know what's going on. Okay, so let me just finish and then we'll get through this, and then hopefully whatever's going on with everybody's stuff will be finished by tomorrow. But according to what I just listened to and what I just played back, it seems like it's flow. It's not skipping anything. Okay. So let me ask you this. During the course of your investigation, you learned that obviously Bubble Up, Terrence Brown, was the driver of this particular vehicle. The witness, yes. Question from the prosecutor. During the course of your investigation, did you learn that Terrence Brown had a family member that used to rent cars in Compton? The witness, that's correct. Question, but that company, or I guess you call it a company, that rented those cars in Compton no longer has or no longer either exists or has records that go back to 1996. Answer, so I was aware based on information I obtained from other police departments and other detectives of a company that was used to rent vehicles. I contacted that company and attempted to find out if they had records going back to 1996, and they did not have records. The only way they might be able to obtain any information is if I had the name and the phone number of the person who rented the vehicle or the vehicle identification number from the car. Since I had neither one of those, they were unable to provide any information. The prosecutor. The prosecutor asked the jury any other questions. Another juror. Question. in the first video that we watched today, towards the end, Mr. Davis said, "Don't tell anyone that's the only way that you'll stay free." So, did he at any time state why he did so many interviews, being that the murder no one had been actually charged for the murder? If he was involved, why is he speaking out so much? Answer: so he never told me personally why he was doing so many interviews. The only reason that I can see now that he is doing all these interviews is monetary gain, and everyone else that was involved in the murder of Tupac Shakur is deceased. The prosecutor, he begins to ask some questions from the juror question. Mr. Davis mentions that he believes the police knew that he committed this crime back in 1996. Witness: yes. Question: and Mr. Davis, as far as you know, has no law license, correct? The witness: he does not. Prosecutor: Mr. Davis told some Los Angeles or people in California associated with law enforcement about his involvement and didn't get prosecuted for this crime, correct? Witness: that's correct. Question: but Metro, the jurisdiction that has authority over the investigation, never received whatever that information is, nor, as far as you know, nobody has ever from Las Vegas ever provided Mr. Davis any sort of immunity from prosecution, correct? Answer: they have not. Question: and then Detective Caden published a book that referenced everything that was told to him by Mr. Davis, and Mr. Davis didn't get arrested in 2011, correct? Witness: that's correct. Question: and so, by 2018, he decided to write his own book and start talking on YouTube videos in an effort to gain money from the killing of Tupac Shakur. Answer: that's what I believe. Question: okay. The foreperson: any other questions? By law, these proceedings are secret, and you are prohibited from disclosing to anyone anything that has transpired before us, including evidence and statements presented to the grand jury, any event occurring or statement made in the presence of the grand jury, and information obtained by the grand jury. Failure to comply with this admonition is a gross misdemeanor punishable by up to 364 days in the Clark County Detention Center and a $2,000 fine. In addition, you may be held in contempt of court, punishable by an additional $500 fine and 25 days in the Clark County Detention Center. Do you understand this admonition? The witness: I do. The foreperson: thank you. You're excused. The witness: thank you. The foreperson: have a good day. The witness: you too. The prosecutor: ladies and gentlemen, that completes the presentation of the evidence for today. Will actually probably be 2 weeks before we're back here in front of you, and we can go off the record. Proceeding adjourned to reconvene at a later undetermined time. So, as you see, that was off the record. The next proceeding would be off the record. So now we have to wait until. Oh, excuse me, you guys. You said it's better now? You said it's better now, Michelle? Okay. So now that is the end of that document. So as we were able to find out from this particular document, right? They have a receipt that they found at the location that was confirmed that they found when they went to go raid Keffe D's house. They have a receipt for the Monte Carlo. That receipt does not confirm that Keffe D stayed at the Monte Carlo, but it confirms that his homeboy was at the Monte Carlo. And that is the homeboy that actually talked to the detectives and told him that he was there the night of the unaliving, and that he went back to the Monte Carlo the night of the unaliving, and that they told them that they had unalived Tupac at the Monte Carlo, right? So while Keffe D is saying that he wasn't present at the Monte Carlo, he actually has documentation in his possession, a receipt that can insinuate that he was there. They can imply that he was there, right? And that's consistent with his statements that he makes to police. So we've seen multiple interviews the last couple of years since Keffe D's been arrested, where he says that he wasn't even in Las Vegas. They can't even place him in Las Vegas, insinuating that there's absolutely nothing that connects him to being in Las Vegas, but they found the Monte Carlo receipt in his possession. So where was the reason he had the receipt? So Keffe D, like I said, he's very misleading. And why do people believe what he say without going back to go check what he's saying? That's why I say we need to read the book. We need to read the documents. We need to listen to all of the interviews. We need to see what is consistent in order for us to try to determine what is the truth in this situation. Because this man thinks he's a finesser. He's sitting up here telling you about mandatory minimums and all of these different things. Listen to what we listened to in chapter 17, how he is so mad and pissed at all of these people who ratted on him. And then this is what put him in a predicament where he had to confess to the Tupac murder. But now he's trying to tell us he didn't commit the Tupac murder and that it was all just for him a monetary gain, that he said this. Well, at the time of him confessing to it, it was no monetary gain. It was to keep him out of jail for other crimes that he was committing. And all of those other people that he ran their names off, they was committing the crimes with him. So, like I said, I have a broader legal question, which is based off of him. I mean, he clearly breached the proffer agreement. So all of these years later, because it's so many years after that agreement went and, that they entered that agreement, how can this impact him now? Because if he's saying that he did not do this and he only admitted to it as a result to try to get him out of a crime that he did commit, where he is in his book admitting that he committed those crimes, then how does that impact him in being able to be prosecuted for those crimes? I know there are statutes of limitation, but being as though this was under a proper agreement in order for him never to speak about this stuff again, is there something legally that can happen to him on those crimes, even if he's found not guilty for unaliving Tupac? Like, this is a big old mess. He's created a big, huge mess for himself. But I wanted us to go through that book. I want us to listen to these interviews because I want us to be able to come to a conclusion that we can at least come to a logical conclusion that Keffe D wrote this book. I am so sick and tired of hearing the people on social media about, oh, he didn't even know what was in the book. He didn't write the book. That is not how that interview presents. That is not how his interviews present. His interviews present that he's not wanting to discuss certain things because he is thinking about whether or not he could be further incriminating himself by discussing certain things, not realizing that he already has incriminated himself just by writing the book. He doesn't think that that's incriminating himself. But he sees it as incriminating himself for him to discuss certain other things. When you watch the interview, when we watch the interview tomorrow, I want to see if you guys see exact what I see. He's not saying he doesn't remember. He's encouraging people to write the book. I mean, to go get the book. That's a marketing strategy. You don't want to tell people everything that's in your book in the interview because then they won't go buy the book. So he's asking, when Vlad says this is in your book, he's like, oh, is it? And then he says, oh, well, give me a copy of the book. And then he holds up a copy of the book and says, go buy my book, such and such and such, because he doesn't want to talk about it. He wants people to purchase the book. That's a marketing strategy. That doesn't mean that he doesn't know what's in the book. That doesn't mean he doesn't remember what's in the book. But people have somehow turned that presentation into him. Oh, he didn't even know what was in it. That's not how I interpret the interview based off of what I saw from it. So I want to watch it with you guys to see if you get some of the same type of a feeling from what you see as I do about is this Keffe D not knowing what's in the book, Or is this part of his marketing strategy to sell the book? Is it part of him not wanting to, being concerned about incriminating himself any further? It's clear he did not take the advice of his lawyer by doing the interviews and writing the book. But there is something about the additional questions that he's being asked. Questions about Baby Lane, additional questions about P. Diddy. He's tried to avoid those. Not that he didn't remember. He tries to avoid them. And I'm wondering if he's trying to avoid them to avoid further incriminating himself, because he might, in his mind, see those things and those subjects as being things that would further incriminate him in the crime, right? But I wanted to read this part of the grand jury hearing for you, because I wanted you guys to hear that part about the receipt. The receipt, it was confirmation. His homeboy, who ends up talking to the feds about the crime and telling them what Keffe D told him that night at the Monte Carlo. Keffe D has a receipt in his possession for the Monte Carlo. They cannot say for sure he stayed there, but the receipt was in his possession, and they can confirm that his homeboy, who told him that he met him up with him that night at the Monte Carlo after the shooting, that he was at the Monte Carlo and he stayed at the Monte Carlo. That information has been confirmed. So that is the evidence we have so far. I don't know if there'll be any additional things that will confirm his whereabouts the night of the murder, but so far, to me, that's circumstantial enough for me. I don't know about anybody else, but that circumstantial evidence right there is enough for me to say, Keffe D, you was in Vegas. You were there. Right? Stop lying. I don't know why these people want to constantly believe, oh, he said he wasn't even in Vegas. In the grand jury hearing, it was shown to the grand jury that there was a raid that was conducted. I don't know. I can't remember if they said 96 or 98 that confirmed Keffe D was in possession of a Monte Carlo receipt in Vegas the night that Tupac was unalived. So stop saying he wasn't there. Stop saying he wasn't there. What other reason would he have to have that receipt? Why else would that receipt be in his possession? On that, you guys, I'm about to get out of here. Thank you for coming in here. Thank you for getting through this book with me. We are going to listen to the 2 interviews tomorrow. We are also going to go maybe late next week or either early the following week. We're going to start to read Evil Twins, the book about Little Durk and King Von, right? That is going to be for leading up to the Little Durk trial that is supposed to start on August the 24th. So we are going to read that so we can kind of get some context on what took place with the unaliving of Quando Rondo's cousin. The hit was meant for him. The hit was meant for Quando Rondo, but it ended up being his cousin, okay, that was unalived. And Durk is being accused of a murder for hire. So another murder for hire situation. In this Keffe D situation, y'all, we don't know if we have a murder for hire, because in the Keffe D book, we cannot confirm that that was a murder for hire. I'm sorry. Now, according to the book. Now, I'm not saying that that's not what happened in reality, but according to what Keffe D wrote in that book, we cannot confirm that this was a murder for hire. According to Keffe D, he knew that Puff had some disdain for Tupac and Suge, that he did not particularly want them to continue breathing, but there was no actual agreement that they came to, in according to the book, that they would do this and they would do it that night, and all of these things were set in motion. Not the same thing that Kirk Burroughs talked about. Kurt Burrows talked about a very strategic plan for certain vehicles to were rented and driven to Vegas instead of them getting a flight and all of these details. But what Keffe D placed in his book was not that. So I'm interested to see what were his statements to Greg Caden. What did he tell Greg Caden? Did he tell Greg Caden things that were more elaborate plan, like the one we heard Kurt Burrows talking about in the Netflix series and 50 Cent's Netflix series? Or did Keffe D, you said question, if Suge is saying it was Keffe, what weight does that hold in your opinion? Well, so according to what we just read in the hearing from the witness, from Detective Mo, Suge was mentioning and throwing up Keffe D and Orlando's name in the days leading, after the incident. So, now he's been back and forth with it, but the days after the incident, it seems like that these two names were circulating enough for it to be thrown into papers that Keffe D was keeping. He was keeping the souvenirs. Like, Keffe D was keeping news reports of this incident as souvenirs. It's trophies. I don't know what was the point of him keeping it, but this is what they found at his location with them. So, what Suge had to say for me immediately after the events means more than what he's been saying lately, right? Because lately he's been back and forth. But at the time of the incident, he threw up these two names. And then just coincidentally, these many years later, we have this man, after the other people had passed away, admitting to doing the crime. I'm going to rely more so on what Suge said back then than I would what he's been saying recently. That's just my opinion. So that's why I wanted to read that to you guys so that we can get some idea as to what the theory, some of the theory, because as far as what the actual statements that Keffe D made in that proffer, we don't really know. We've been kept in the dark kind of about that, right? And we've been listening to all of what Keffe D has been saying, other people who may not have been eyewitnesses but may have been around individuals at the time, what they've been saying, other content creators who think that they have investigated this so well that they have solved the crime and they know who did it. But we really haven't taken the time to listen to what we couldn't take the time to do it because we didn't have access to it. We didn't have access to the proffer. And in this trial, we're finally going to have that. And so then that is going to be, I think, the key piece of evidence that will tie in these interviews and what he placed in his book. Because how does what he said in the proffer corroborate, agree, or disagree with what he's been saying in interviews and what he wrote in the book? And what additional information may have been provided in the proffer that confirmed for these agents that they know that Keffe D was there that night that he did this, and that he was the right man that they got, right? Everybody wants to keep talking about that these people created a script, but look at the things that Keffe D was already doing before a script was created. He was keeping newspaper clippings. He kept the receipt from the hotel. These are all the things that if an agent raids you and picks you up and you have been accused of maybe having something to do with this event, it's going to make them believe that you had something to do with the event. So, everybody, it's so much distrust of the police department, and I get it, but none of these people have any scruples about themselves. Keffe D is letting us know in his book that he's lied multiple times. He's telling us his crimes in the book and telling us he's lying to law enforcement about the crime. So we know not to trust him. So I don't know if I don't have any more trust in him than I do the law enforcement that handled him in this process. And what I could say for him is clearly he did commit some crimes that he should have went to jail for the rest of his life for, according to the sentencing guidelines. Because since he's always talking about sentencing guidelines, when he in chapter 17 he ran through everybody else's sentencing guidelines and how they got out of what they had going on. But he got out of it. He got a major win by admitting to the crime of unaliving Tupac, and he got away with his other crimes. So I don't believe nothing Keffe say. I'm skeptical of him and what he has to say about any of these detectives and their character or their reputation. I really don't believe, because his is shot. No, if with a shot reputation like his, I can't believe. I'm not saying that their characters aren't questionable, but I'm not going to believe his questionable character to corroborate that. I'm not going to believe in his statements in order as evidence to demonstrate that. You said, I get it. I'm just saying, yeah, that's where I am. So I'll put more weight on what Suge's statements were, the hours, the days, the months, right immediately after the event, than I do in what he's saying now. Right? That's where I would start. What he's saying now is a result of whatever his agenda is now. I don't know what the agenda. I don't know what his agenda is now for why he's so back and forth with this. But what he had to say, the hours, the weeks, the months after the event, that's where I would more so go on. And it looks like it points towards him throwing these two individuals' names. And in the book, we heard it for ourselves. Keffe is adamant he had absolutely nothing to do with the unaliving of Biggie. He admits to what he did with Tupac. If he was writing this book out of fear for his life because of what Greg Caden did by discussing this incident, why wouldn't he come out and deny him being part of that as well and then expose what really happened? Why wouldn't he write a book that would expose what really took place? That would have been something that most people would love to read. But he decided to write a book where he would adamantly deny that he had anything to do with the unaliving of Biggie, but that he absolutely committed the murder of Tupac Shakur. That's what he did. Reiterating their story, but trying to give context to people so that people could understand why he committed the murder, but why he confessed to the murder. Because he would have never confessed to the murder if it wasn't that they got him on some other crime that he actually did commit as well. So I don't know, you guys. We just got to wait and see. But I'm looking forward to what evidence the prosecutors will present. I'm looking forward to the defense, what the defense will put up to defend their client. And we will just have to wait and see. Like I said, tomorrow we're going to go over some of the Vlad interview, some of the Art of Dialogue interview, so that you guys can see what I'm talking about when I'm saying that you can tell by the way that Keffe is interviewing that he wrote this book. There are lots of statements in this book that he repeats over and over in the Vlad interview. And I'm assuming that he's going to also do it in the Art of Dialogue interview, which means that he committed these things to memory. So either he committed them to memory because these things actually occurred, or he committed it to memory because these are lies that he created about an event that he had nothing to do with, one or the other. But it's absolutely his thoughts and opinions and his product. That book is a product of his intellectual property and no one else's. Right? There are some edits that are probably in it. There are some things that are added in it, probably to try to want to grasp the attention of the reader. But outside of that, this is Keffe. You can tell. You can tell from the way that book is written, and you can tell how he interviews that is consistent. And that's where I agree with the detective mode. Yes, there are some inconsistencies, but overall it's consistent, and it's also almost some of what he recollects is verbatim. So you guys, y'all have a great night. Like I said, thanks again for coming in, JoJo, Cookie, Michelle, Just V. I don't think I missed anybody who came in tonight. Everybody on a replay again, please let me know your questions, comments, concerns, suggestions in the comment section. I will respond to you guys, and I will see you guys sometime tomorrow evening.